vibrating higher and higher, more intensively at the different kind of frequency brings you to beyond the physical realm. And this has been my experience. You can definitely experience that in this lifetime if you're willing and if you have a deep longing and you guide it properly too. So we're going to talk about how to vibrate at a different frequency through, again, the eyes of the yogic tradition with Kundalini ascension, which we already talked about in the previous voyages, previous video, that Kundalini ascension is a phenomenal blessing. And it could be a nightmare too if you're not guided properly, or if it happens spontaneously to a person who is not on the spiritual path or has not done any kind of proper sadhana, proper pranayama, proper kriya yoga and hatha yoga. It's rare, but it can happen. Otherwise, it's a phenomenal blessing, and it can happen in this lifetime, but it does not necessarily mean it will happen to you. It depends on so many factors. Grace is ultimately one of the biggest factors, but also on your karmic structure, on your tendency, on your longing, your willingness, your openness, your receptivity. It depends on so many things. And you heard we have demystified what is Kundalini energy in the previous voyages. But I want to share a little bit more about my Kundalini ascension, because I think it's important that people can see that it's a phenomenon that happened in any tradition, even in Christianity. And it can be so traumatizing on a person if they don't know what's happening to them. But if you do, and you have the proper guidance, because I remember through my Kundalini ascension, which was very intense for so many years, probably like over 6 years, with an incredible intensity. And if you allow me, I'm going to use myself as an example here, because I have direct experience with it. And I have heard some terrible story, very sad story of certain people where the Kundalini was awakened and they were in tremendous pain and suffering and affecting their life. Because for that to happen, you need to be ready and you need the proper guidance. And otherwise, it can be a real nightmare. And maybe for some of you who are going through this right now, you would know a little bit what I'm talking about, because sometimes if you are not in a complete state of surrender, the energy can get stuck. And this is where it's causing pain. It can be physical pain, could be emotional pain, mental pain, sometimes all of the above together. But when you are in a deep surrender and a state of openness and abandoning yourself completely, and you do the proper sadhana with the proper guidance and transmission, then the energy can flow truly, nicely, naturally, because it's just Mahashakti, the primordial energy that comes and purifies. So that's the blessing, because the Divine Mother, I always call her the Divine Mother. You can look at it differently. Is in the yogic tradition, as you know, we call her the Divine Mother, or you could call her Ma, the Mother, the Divine Feminine energy. She comes and take care of what needs to be out, changing all that garbage inside, throwing it out the window, everything, all that doesn't serve you, that personality that was created by you over so many decades and even other lifetime, because that is where the samskara and the vasana are the hardest to get rid of, because they're so deep into the subconscious mind that most people are not even aware of certain thought pattern or how they've been triggered, how you're still like a puppet. So as long as you are in a deep state of abandoning and you have the proper kriya and the proper guidance, things will go smooth. Sometimes it could be in a fury, like it was in my case. It was such a fury. I will never forget, I was there in a satsang, and I was listening to my guru at the time, and he was not there physically, but I could hear his voice. It was a guided meditation, and then as the meditation was going, saying to see your guru in front of you, I saw Shiva, and I went straight to my guru, straight to Shiva, and I yelled and I exploded into such a trance, which lasted for an hour and a half. And I was in such a convulsion. My whole body was shaking and trembling and jerking and hyperventilating, and it was intense. Like anyone who would have looked at my being, actually there were people there, including my ex-husband. They thought that, not other people because some knew, but my ex-husband was really frightened by this because he could not understand what was happening. And it went on for an hour and a half. Even when I was sitting, they finally made me sit, and I was still shaking. It was so intense. And then it went on like that for over 6-7 years of incredible trance, of speaking in tongue. Who knows what was coming out? It was, and my body rotating and the head rotating violently and taking on different asana. And one of them I talk about in Becoming the Light was when my body went into some kind of a headstand, which I was literally almost like floating up in the air for like so many minutes. I don't know how long, but it was like I was light like a feather. But that first time that Kundalini ascension arise in a fury like that was when I remember my hands were shaking really strong, really powerfully, and it went on and on and on and on. And the following day, I looked at my legs and they were literally black and blue. And Devi Mayi is not exaggerating. We should have taken photo. It was black, completely black from banging my legs. Even though I was in sadhana and I was in intense sadhana, this is how furious it was. The fury just demolished because my longing was so deeply deep, and it was the grace, and it was so many things, so many lifetime of being on that path, and it went on and on and on and on, all kind of what we call spontaneous kriya.